Hey guys, Zom Fox here, and today I want to talk about the news that happened a couple of days ago regarding a couple of the different quarterbacks in the XFL. We had a couple of guys get added and one big name be basically just taken off the XFL. I think it's important thing to go talk about it. So the three guys that we're talking about are the guys in the thumbnail: Paxton Lynch, Brian Scott, and Brett Hundley. All three of these guys are now basically going to be changing scenery. So the first one is Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley has signed to the XFL and is currently on the Las Vegas Vipers in the XFL. For those who don't know who Brett Hundley is, Brett Hundley basically is most known for his 1 year stint where he was basically forced to play 9 games as a starter for the Packers due to Aaron Rodgers' injury, where he played, I guess is the best way to put it. He would basically never play again aside from a 2 game stint with Arizona. The fact is that he's not the he's a big name in a sense that he has played and that he's been on rosters for a while, but the man really never played, just being on rosters and stuff like that. So even though his signing is a big one in the sense of a lot of people still remember him from that season in Green Bay, I think that people are overvaluing just how big a signing this is for the league. This isn't like they got a guy who, plays every couple of years or something. This is a guy that played really just 1 year due to injury. And wasn't even that good when he did play. But I still think this is definitely a very solid addition to the XFL. I think that even though it's not as big a deal as people are making it out to be, it still is a pretty big deal that he went there. Though the only thing I'm not really understanding about it is that the fact that he went to a team that already was pretty good, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not like he went to a team that doesn't have a quarterback. This team has Luis Perez and Brian Scott. Well, did have Brian Scott. Brian Scott is the second guy we're talking about. For those of you who don't know, Brian Scott was probably on pace to win MVP in the USFL last year until he got hurt. He basically suffered like a knee and ankle injury and stuff like that. And so because of that, he wasn't able to actually play the rest of the year and was sitting. Then earlier this year, he was one of the first guys to be spotted with the XFL and indeed did go to the XFL. But they have just released him after trying to trade him and it not really going through. Now, I think this is overall the best case scenario for Scott. Even though he preferred to go to the XFL naturally as it seems, I think this is overall a better thing for him. I think it gives him extra time to heal, as now you have another couple of months to heal up from any injuries you had to get better for this next upcoming USFL season. So I think he will be coming to the USFL, and coming back, I should say. And I think that is going to be mainly because of the fact that he is going to be able to get fully healthy, or at least more healthy than he would be right now. Naturally, some knee injuries like torn ACLs, an example, Carson Wentz, when he tore his ACL before they went on to win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, he ended up missing multiple games of the next season before he came back. And knee injuries and ankle injuries, stuff like that, naturally can be different, but I think that giving him extra time to heal is a good thing. And the fact is that him being replaced by Brett Hundley is kind of a wash for me, as even though Brett Hundley does have more pro experience with that 1 year, the fact is Brian Scott is a spring football guy. The guy was great in the TSL, and I think that overall it's a loss for the XFL. They are losing him. I think that sometimes you just got to bite the bullet, and if someone's having a poor camp, just let them run it back, keep training and practicing. But I guess they had to cut someone, and they ended up cutting him. Now, the last one is Paxton Lynch. I was one of the very few guys that genuinely did believe in him to be the quarterback for the Panthers next year in 2023. Most people that I'm seeing really aren't a huge fan of this move, unless you're a USFL guy, because a lot of fans don't think highly of Paxton Lynch and think that it's a good thing for the USFL that he's gone. I don't. I think that the fact is that there's a reason why he was drafted in the first round. Yes. Did he pan out? No. Not even the slightest. But the fact is that he still has talent. The fact is he still is a 6'7" quarterback that can run. And when he was at his best, which was mainly that last game to win the number 1 overall pick last year, he was solid. The fact is that the Michigan Panthers won 2 games during the season. He was the quarterback for those 2 games. He was a very solid player. And the fact that people want to continue hating on him, yeah, I get it. But he still was very solid during his year last year, and I think that this is definitely a huge loss for the Panthers. Now, I guess they either really believe in the guys they have, or they really do think that there's someone in the draft that's going to be good enough to use the first overall pick on. The fact that he's going to the Renegades don't really have a great quarterback situation themselves, so there's a legit shot that he will be starting. But we're going to have to see for sure about that, as their quarterbacks, DeAndre Francois and Quentin Dormade, aren't really the biggest names or the best of players. So Paxton Lynch definitely could become the starter for that team. As for all three of these guys, I think that overall the one that I really do think is the worst is the fact that Lynch did leave the USFL. I think that a lot of people just hate him because of the fact that this was a guy who, in reality, is one of the biggest draft busts in recent memory. He gets kind of under the radar because he wasn't as flamboyant as Johnny Manziel, or he wasn't just, as much as a, wow, he really did nothing like a Solomon Thomas or picked ahead of someone like a Mitch Trubisky. He's gotten kind of under the radar, kind of like how the Niners never get any flack for not drafting Mahomes, yet the Bears do. Just like that. He kind of slides under the radar, but people still do know him as a draft bust. But the fact is that he's continued to keep playing. It's not like he's just, given up, so he still does want to play football. I think that's a huge loss for the USFL that he did leave, though most people probably won't see it that way. But at the same time, I think that's a huge gain for the USFL with Brian Scott, because I really do feel that he's probably going to come back. I don't know the chance that he ends up signing with the team midseason of the XFL. That might happen. But right now, I think that the more realistic one is that he does go back to the USFL. But that's it for all these guys right now. If you like this content, when we notify as soon as I upload any videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, have a great night.